put it into context for us. This is a significant change of direction, isn't it?
It absolutely is, Dan. I've been to a lot of party conferences, and I don't think I can remember one where the government has had to change policy quite so drastically in these circumstances. This was always billed as the Chancellor's day. He's just given his big speech to the party faithful, and indeed it has been his day, just not quite in the way he imagined it.
He's had better mornings.
Are you going to say sorry, Chancellor?
Kwasi Kwarteng's first job today, announcing the scrapping of a headline government policy.
The 45p rate quickly became a focal point of discussion. There were lots of concerns. I listened to people, I spoke to MPs, spoke to colleagues, spoke to people in the country and saw the reaction and felt the best thing to do was to not proceed with the abolition of the 45p rate, simply because it was just drowning out the other elements of the plan.
This morning, the Prime Minister Liz Truss tweeted, "We get it and we have listened. The abolition of the 45p rate had become a distraction from our mission to get Britain moving." But that's not what she was saying yesterday.
Are you absolutely committed to abolishing the 45p tax rate for the wealthiest people in the country? Yes.
The Chancellor's number two seemed to imply the problem with ditching the 45p rate was the politics, not the economics.
Look, there are clearly economic arguments that say getting rid of it would have benefits. We've made those arguments in the last 2 weeks.
So you would still like to do it at some point?
No, I wouldn't say that at all, because we recognise that public opinion and indeed parliamentary opinion was not supportive of the move, and we are a government that listens.
This former cabinet minister says the government failed the basic test. If you want to do difficult things, you have to get the communication right.
It's not an afterthought or a nice to have or an add-on. It's central to a government's case in order to take MPs, the markets and the population with us.
For party members, acceptance and some disappointment.
One bad decision and he's already turned that round. Great, he's listened to the people.
I'm disappointed. Liz Truss said that she was going to stick to her guns and she didn't, so I'm disappointed. But it's early days, and who's to say that could happen in the next budget?
It was probably the sensible thing to do, to just steady the ship a little bit and see us through the winter.
It was inevitable that they were going to do it and then abandon it, so...
He hopes this will be the only U-turn, but the danger is his critics have now seen he and his boss can be turned, and they'll come back for more. Andy Bell, 5 News at the Conservative Party conference in Birmingham.
And we'll be back with Andy in a moment, but he did tell us that the Chancellor's actually been addressing the conference this afternoon. He finished that in the last half hour or so. This is a slice of what he had to say. Have a look.
Our growth plan set out 10 days ago will ensure we focus relentlessly on economic growth, because we must face up to the fact that for too long our economy has not grown enough. The path ahead of us was one of slow, managed decline. But I refuse to accept that it is somehow Britain's destiny to fall back into middle league status, or that the tax burden reaching a 70-year high is somehow inevitable. It isn't, and it shouldn't be. We needed a new approach focused on raising economic growth.
So that was the Chancellor speaking in the last hour or so. Let's go back to Andy in Birmingham, who was listening in to all of that. Andy, again, sort of broaden this out for us, because in terms of the first few weeks in a new job, I don't think it could have gone much worse for the Chancellor, could it?
Yeah, it's been a pretty rocky couple of weeks and a pretty rocky 24 hours. But I have to say, Dan, I was struck in his speech by him describing what's happened with the 45p rate as a little turbulence, and he was very keen to draw a line under that. Basically, the suggestion is that was one thing we got wrong. We've fixed that, we've gone back, we've changed our minds, but now we move on. And the message he was giving to Conservative Party members here was that the plan that was sketched out in that so-called mini-budget is still the correct one. He wanted to stress the help that's being given to people with their energy bills, and to stress the reforms that he says are going to be brought forward to help growth in the economy. And this was still a speech and a plan that is all about growth in the economy. So it was striking that he wanted to move on from that one decision, and get back to saying, but the basics of the plan are still sound. Just one thought to leave you with. There are still a lot of people, a lot of MPs, unhappy about other aspects of what's happening with this economic plan, not least what is going to happen to benefits. Will they be raised in line with inflation? The Prime Minister has not been clear about that. That could be the next big battle on the horizon.